It is 4 a.m. in Rio de Janeiro, but the Maracanãzinho is still buzzing because their native son, Jose Aldo, retained the UFC featherweight title tonight in a masterful performance against Chad Mendes. UFC 179 is officially in the books. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ariel Helwani, still awake here in Rio alongside our very own Guilherme Cruz. And Guilherme, the night didn't start off very well for the Brazilians, but everyone went home happy. Jose Aldo won. Did you score the fight for him?
Yeah, I had Aldo winning the fight. It was a great fight, man. One of the best I've ever seen live. I believe he won the fight at least 3 rounds.
What do you think of his performance overall? Were you expecting that kind of fight from him?
I was actually surprised that Chad Mendes stand there and just went to war against him, and that brings the best Jose Aldo. He fights better when he's in Rio, and he fights better when he's challenged. And I think he was challenged tonight.
There was a controversial moment at the end of the first round. He clearly rocked him, dropped him almost with a punch that came after the horn sounded. How big of a factor do you think that was in the fight?
It was a big factor. I was in the arena that moment, and I couldn't hear the bell, and it was really loud because he had just mounted on Chad Mendes and came back and started swinging, and by the time the horn sounded, I couldn't hear it. Then the ref came in. Some journalists in the press row thought that Aldo had won the fight via knockout. So it was really loud and couldn't hear it. But yeah, there was a big factor in the fight.
So you don't blame the referee for not stepping in there?
Yeah, I blame. He was closer than me to the bell, but I don't know if he heard that and just was too late to get there and stop the fight. But I have no idea if he actually heard that or not.
You know, I always like to ask you about the Brazilian scene and to get your perspective on Brazilian MMA. You know, it's a very interesting time right now because there's only one remaining champion, Jose Aldo. He retained the title, but you know, I think back to UFC 134 when they came back here for the first time in many years, and that was a big party with Big Nog and Anderson and Shogun winning. Tonight, a lot of Americans were winning. The Brazilians were losing. How important was this win that Jose Aldo had for the Brazilian MMA scene in the country as a whole?
It was huge, and the way that the fight happened, great fight, helped Jose Aldo to become a star here in Brazil. I believe he's going to become bigger now after this awesome fight. And it was a little different than the UFC 134 card, because that card we had 3 big stars, Big Nog, Shogun, and Anderson. This card was Aldo was the big star, and it was fighters with small names. It wasn't so much big stars in the UFC. So if they lose, that's okay. It's not like if the UFC 134 and Big Nog and Shogun lost, and only Anderson won. That would be really bad for the UFC in Brazil. But tonight it was kind of different because Aldo was the only star of the card.
I guess my point was, back at UFC 134, it seemed like Brazil was on top of the world. There were big stars. Now Anderson is coming off 2 losses. Big Nog almost retired. Shogun in a bit of a weird spot. So if Aldo would have lost after all of that and some tough losses tonight, it would feel like, wow, how the mighty have fallen just 3 years later. I know you don't want to hear that, but you get my point, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. It was really important for MMA in Brazil, for the UFC business in Brazil, that Aldo won tonight, because they have a star, and I know there was everybody talking about it. We'll talk about it. The Conor McGregor fight. I believe that after tonight, we gotta see how this play out of the week, to see people talking about it. If Aldo really becomes a big star here in Brazil, if they can maybe one day sell out Maracanã Stadium with him, and maybe McGregor is the best fight for it. I believe that if you want to do a UFC event at Maracanã, you need more than one title. Maybe Verdun win a title, or Vitor Belfort win a title, and putting them with Jose Aldo that could sell out the Maracanã Stadium one day.
I asked you on Friday, what does Jose need to do to take that next step to really become that big star in here in Brazil? And I know this main event aired on Globo, the big channel, sort of like Fox in the United States. Do you think that he did enough? Do you feel like there was enough buzz after the fight? I know it's still somewhat fresh to become that big star now.
I think that he did enough. It was an amazing fight. The problem is that it was too late. It was 2 a.m., so it's too late. But if this fight happened at like 11 p.m., everybody would like to have twice the ratings that they probably did at 2 a.m. But he did what he had to do. If it was like a first fight, huge knock in the first round, it would be great. But a war like that is what makes a fighter become a star and a hero here in Brazil. And but I think he needs something else to become something like the next Anderson Silva. He needs a Chelsea. I think he got one in Conor. Yeah.
Everyone needs that foil, right? And Conor is certainly that. But next for Conor is Dennis Siver in January. Let's just say he wins that fight. Do you think he has a shot against Jose Aldo?
I think Chad Mendes is the toughest fight for Jose Aldo, and I think the matchup for Conor, I don't see him ready today to beat Jose Aldo. I don't think he's ready. No.
Maybe if he beats Dennis Siver, he'll be ready. I think that's what they're banking on.
Yeah, who knows? We gotta see how he performs in January.
What do you think of Phil Davis in the co-main event after his win over Glover Teixeira, calling out Anderson Silva? It seemed a little weird, right?
It was surprising, and nobody expected that. So it was smart. Anderson is the huge star here in Brazil, and who knows? Maybe they give him that fight.
No chance they give him that fight. There's no chance.
No
it's
chance.
Almost like if you're gonna call it someone. Don't call it someone that there's no chance they're going to give you. That's my opinion on it.
But he got us talking about him after a fight that wasn't that exciting, wasn't that exciting, and here we are talking about him, maybe calling out the best of all time. So it was good for him.
I'm curious what they do with Phil Davis next, because he's coming off that tough loss to Anthony Johnson. As you mentioned, it wasn't the most exciting fight, but it was a very dominant win. He looked very good, just wasn't very flashy. The guy that comes to mind is maybe someone like a Ryan Bader, something like that. Do you agree?
Say like that. Yeah, that's the name that I was gonna say. That's the fight that makes most sense for him right now. He just lost to Anthony Johnson, so. There's not a lot of guys that you could put him against, like Dan Henderson doesn't make a lot of sense too, or Rashad that they already fought, right? So yeah, Bader I think is the best name for him right now.
And two very nice moments with Anderson Silva. He walked out, everyone was very excited to see him, and then with Fabio Maldonado, jumped on the cage, yet they're not on the same team. Tell us a bit about that backstory and why it was a little bit out of the blue.
Yeah, they were on the same team in the past at Team Nogueira, but Maldonado had a few issues with them. He wanted to open a Team Nogueira gym back in his city, but for some reason they didn't let him to do it. Then months later, someone else went there and opened a Team Nogueira gym there, so he was a little disappointed, sad with them. And left the team. Now he's working with Patricio Pitbull and the Pitbull brothers. So Maldonado has a huge heart. He loves everybody. He's a great guy, and I believe that he was really sad. He's really emotional when he does interviews. He really sad was in his heart, and I believe he changed his mind when he met Anderson again, and they are back in good grace now.
Yeah, well, it was good to see Anderson here. He was certainly in good spirits. The old king was here, and the last remaining king, at least for now, for the Brazilians, retained his title. Great performance, as Dana White said in the post-fight press conference, arguably the greatest featherweight title fight of all time. Jose Aldo still the champion. We'll see who's next. Is it Conor McGregor? January 18th, he has a date against Dennis Siver in Boston. You'll have to get through that one, and then maybe he'll finally get that title shot, perhaps in a big stadium, either here in Brazil or in Ireland. Thank you so much for watching our coverage all week long from here in Rio, anchored by this man, Guilherme Cruz. I'm Ariel Helwani, signing off from here in Rio. It is very early or late early in the morning, late, I don't know what it is. We're off on Monday for the MMA Hour, but we're back on Tuesday, same time and place, so we hope that you will join us. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in just a couple of days.